All right. GTMN March 8th. I can't even remember the episode number. So we're just going to get going, Austin. We had
I
to
know.
skip last week.
We're somewhere between 10 and 20.
Exactly. Yeah, that's right. And we had to skip last week because I got super busy, and someday we will unpack why I'm busy. But it's been a fun couple of weeks here, getting back into my groove. Not ready to talk about why I'm busy or so busy, but let's do this. Okay, I want to start with some doom and gloom. Unfortunately, I'm gonna share my screen. I've mentioned this name to you in the past, David Herman. I don't know if you've heard of that name. He is one of the best sort of media buyers that I know. He does a lot of work in e-com and Meta, Google, Snap, TikTok, all that fun stuff. He's done some. We have some shared clients and what have you. And I saw his post from like a couple of days ago, and here's what he said. Right, he's like, the economy's not good. Sentiment in America is not good. All of this stuff reverberates through your ad accounts. You're not immune when the share of wallet is further hit by rising gas prices, rising energy costs, rising mental costs, so on and so forth. And something that he said that got stuck in my head is, we talk a lot about creative, but in the end, I believe those who are winning and will win during seasons of uncertainty will be those who are testing and being extremely strict on offer testing. And unless your product is an essential type business where people need it versus want it, you need to get started on offer testing if you're not already. And, he calls it a three-alarm fire in his mind. And he referred to this news item from CNBC about E-shaped economy, middle classes treading water, so on and so forth. So hate to be the doomer here, but I'm curious what you think about this. There's obviously lots of macro stuff happening in the economy last couple of weeks. What do you think? Is he right? Is he wrong? What's your take?
I think I have an opinion that is informed by, what I'm experiencing, but is probably not informed by like actual middle America and actual, the middle class. The thing that I keep thinking about though is that for the last 20 years, prices have been rising, but prices have never felt so challenging and have grown so quickly, except in the last 3 years. And I hate to be like an old guy about it, but it's like I remember my parents used to talk about how when they were kids, something would cost a certain amount of money, and I'd bring up the inflation parameter and say, hey, well, that makes sense because in your mind, it was less expensive, but inflation has compounded for 30 years. And so what was $10 as a kid is now $20. But like, I'm not that old. And I remember Chipotle burrito being $14. And now it's like $38.
Whoa, really? A Chipotle burrito is $38?
I got a Chipotle burrito the other day with like chips and
Yeah.
queso or whatever. It was like close to $30. And then there's like, delivery and tax or whatever. Same thing is my wife and I have a restaurant that we've been going to for the last 10 years that's down the street. And our dinners used to be like $50 and now they're closer to $110. And so I think about like, okay, this impacts us, but we're upper middle class and are very privileged. I can't imagine that feeling if if your salary hasn't changed in the last 10 years and you're still stuck, in a bracket where you have a fixed income and it doesn't kind of change with inflation. So yeah, I mean, I believe it in the sense that I think people are struggling. I think a large portion of America is probably struggling because of costs. And I'm not currently part of that group, but I try to believe that it's true, because if I am like somewhat tickled by prices, I know other people are definitely hurting from them.
Yeah.
Now the question is like, is the economy bad because of that? Is a different story, unfortunately, because for a long time, growing inequality in America has put it so that you can actually have a lot of inequality and a lot of suffering in middle and lower parts of America, and also have a booming economy because the people with wealth are spending. So I could try to separate like, is the common American better off and doing well from, is the economy going to keep growing as a whole? And I don't know if those two things are directly related as much as I want them to be.
Yeah. Yeah. The reason I wanted to start here is like we're 2 months into.
By the way, this is not a paid ad for Topo Chico. I'm just very thirsty today. It's the first
Topo
warm
Chico is
day
great.
of the season. Brought to you
Yes,
by
it's
Topo
so
Chico.
nice and warm here in the Bay Area too. So totally with you. And Topo Chico is great. Love the brand. But on that note, right? Like if the consumer is struggling, and we're going off of like this anecdotal point, right? We're not trying to make some big claim around the economy and what have you. We're just going by like this one person, David Herman, who does a lot of media spending for ecom brands on Meta, and he's like, it's a mess. And he's seeing those signals from,
Yep.
from his work. And we're also seeing this in like the SaaS market as well, right? We're looking at every major public SaaS company. The stocks are down, earnings are under pressure, NDR is under pressure, right? So any way you slice and dice the data, both the consumer and the B2B side, there's less money to go around. And at the same time, when you think about like what's happening in, startup land and marketing land, the growth numbers haven't come down. Like the growth and the targets are still up. So, to the point that David was making, get really crisp about whether the product that you sell is something that customers, need or they want. And if they, want, then how do you really get crisp about what you're offering and doing offer testing? And I think it applies across the board, not just ecom.
Oh, and one thing I'll add too is like, I think now that all this tariff stuff has blown up, I think there's actually a really good strategy for savvy marketers and good brands who are not just in it for maximizing profits to pick reasonable prices and build a great product, right?
Yep.
Like every product out there, most services have raised prices. Some of them necessarily because it was required with inflation. A lot of companies and products, not because they needed to, but because there was an opportunity to make more money. And I think like, right now people don't really have the opportunity to vote with their wallets, but certainly for enterprising companies, if you did want to offer products that are, priced less than the comparables, I think you have a winning strategy. Especially like, I mean, just as an example, like with clothes, I see some brands of clothes charging, $100, $200 for clothes. And then a premium brand, same category charging $20 to $30 less for the comparable, output. And I never before really cared about this stuff, but even myself, like in our socioeconomic situation, like you and I in technology, I'm like, yeah, I don't want to pay $250 for like a shirt.
Have you heard of this brand called Quince?
Oh yeah, big Quince fan.
Oh, okay. There we go. So I think it just got announced that they're raising money at like some ridiculous valuation again, and they might
Mhm.
be like the biggest consumer, company doing fundraising. And I think their whole value prop is basically this, right? So if you buy from Quince, if you're on, and this is you already are a fan, so you know this, but if you go to their website
Yeah.
and you check out on a product, it usually typically shows you, here's how much Quince will charge. And oh, by the way, here's what a luxury brand charges for the same product. And that's their whole ethos, is cutting the middleman and getting you good prices. And I've bought a couple of Quince things. I like it too. So shout out to Quince. But that's, if you can maintain the quality, because I thought Uniqlo was like that for clothes. And then the Uniqlo quality somehow, I don't know, it just it has been a little bit disappointing for me. So I hope Quince maintains the quality somehow.
I know, and not to we could take this part of the talk track in a very big direction, but I am a big Vori guy. Do you wear
Uh,
Vori?
I've got a couple of things gifted to me, so yeah, yeah,
I think
yeah.
like Vori is the new Allbirds for like tech CEOs. So maybe
Oh,
you should get
interesting.
on that.
Okay. All right, all right. I just gotta jump on the next hot bandwagon for tech CEOs. All right.
It's so comfortable. Unbelievable.
Here's a piece of news on Amazon. We have a lot to cover today because we skipped last week. Amazon surpasses Walmart as world's revenue leader. So they
Mm.
officially became the biggest company by revenue, posting $717 billion in 2025. And you know what's crazy to me? Like Amazon doesn't get all this like attention in the ecosystem, right? Like we hardly ever talk about Amazon, but then they've got commerce, they've got AWS and the whole sort of, infrastructure layer. And now they have Amazon advertising. And there's a bunch of news about
Mhm.
Amazon advertising that we should talk about as well. But just what behemoth, $717 billion in just sales, dude. Like, wow.
There's an amazing stratechery. I pronounced it correct that time. I used to think it was Stratacherry, but you corrected me. Stratechery article on this from probably 2019 and how Amazon is growing, and the fact that like yes, Walmart's a big company, but Amazon is just as big from like a commerce perspective, but they also have this huge part of their business, which is a cloud business competing with Google and Microsoft. They're in fact like the most diversified business in the entire world. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And the fact that like they can use their own advertising inventory, which they sell to others for themselves, it's unbelievable.
We're going to take a quick pause because my wife is trying to probably do something. That's okay. It's not live. You need something? It's our 6-year-old's birthday party tonight, so she's getting a bunch of stuff organized.
What are you guys doing for it?
We're gonna we're going to what is it, a slime party?
Slime kitchen, yeah.
Slime kitchen where kids just play with slime.
Kitchen?
Yeah.
It's like Nickelodeon style?
Kinda, yeah. You just go, like, it's like a store in the mall, and every kid just gets to play with different types of slime, and they'll have like keep them entertained for an hour or two. They'll have pizza, and I think I'm supposed to dress up as a unicorn, so that's gonna be fun.
I think this should be your next team get together for Paramount.
That's a good one.
Slime kitchen, and you dress as a unicorn. I would fly out for that for non.
There we go. Okay, so you're talking about the strategy piece about Amazon. Yeah, I mean, highly diversified, such a good business, and I would argue very recession-proof, right? Because to that point that we were just talking about, regardless of what's happening, there's so much stuff that Amazon sells that you just need, right? Whether it's an AWS account or whether that's Amazon Basics, all your food and groceries, your batteries, everything comes from Amazon. It's kind of wild.
Yep.
Okay.
And between like the three CEOs, Satya, Jeffrey Bezos, and who's the new CEO of Walmart? They just replaced him. Like,
I have no
Jeff
idea.
Bezos is by far the most intimidating of the three.
Are you going by his post-retirement,
Bulk
buffing?
phase? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I want to share one more thing about Amazon, which is really interesting. So, do you know Neil Patel? Is that name familiar to you? So Neil is interesting. He was one of the early like bloggers and online influencers for all things marketing. So he's had a blog for like I think 20 years talking about all things conversion rate optimization and online marketing and what have you. And I follow him on X, and he brought this up that Amazon just pulled off the biggest power shift in advertising. And I don't think most people have realized that now. If you go to Amazon's DSP, you can buy Netflix, Spotify, Roku, all of that advertising inventory is available through Amazon's DSP. So not only are they, doing commerce and doing, as we were saying, right, like the actual sort of infrastructure, but now advertising not just on Amazon, but everywhere else. And using Amazon's first party like conversion data to inform the audience definition on those third party inventory. So this is a pretty massive shift. Like you go to YouTube for advertising, now you go to Amazon for advertising, not just for Amazon, but like all the third party, like all the open web, inventory.
I'll find the article from like 2019 that basically foresaw this coming, and we can include it in the show notes because this doesn't surprise me at all. But there's a lot of power in having a platform.
Yep, and they're just killing it. Okay, on that front, let's talk about a couple of other things that Meta and Google are launching. So, have you come across Meta's Manus AI launch? Have you been following it for the last couple of weeks?
We talked about this a little bit, right?
I don't know if he did it on the pod or in our session when we were talking about attribution. So a couple of interesting things have happened, just to recap. So Meta they bought Manus, they launched Manus's ability to manage your Meta account. And so there's a lot of like talk about this on the internet. And then more recently, what's happened is a bunch of people are getting banned. Their Meta accounts are getting flagged and closed permanently for using anything other than Manus. So if you set up a Claude and connect through Claude to Meta's MCP server for ads and try to do some like funky stuff, apparently Meta doesn't like it. And so
ban your account?
Yeah, so people's accounts are getting banned because maybe it's not in their terms of service or what have you, but like Meta's being very cagey about letting other non-Manus services do manipulation within the Meta ads account, which is kind of wild. So it's all over X right now. Lots of ecom people just freaking out like, hey, my 15-year-old, Meta account just got banned. So if you're listening to this and if you're doing any type of plugging into Meta's MCP and all that fun stuff and using a non-Manus tool, be very careful. Don't do it through your main Meta account. Set up a separate account to do that type of stuff.
I haven't, I wonder, yeah, maybe I need to figure out, like, I need to play with it. I just wonder how much more advanced it is than, say, like Opus or even Quen, like the new one that came out, Quen 3 or anything like that.
I was talking to a friend just like 3 or 4 days ago. We were grabbing dinner. He's building something with his kids, and he was like, "Yeah, Manus is like really crisp for doing some simple things." He built an entire store using Manus, and and we got talking about like, hey, does this represent a risk for Shopify and what have you? And maybe it does. Like, who knows? It's too early. But he was pretty impressed with Manus and how fast they're moving. And the jury's like, I haven't used it myself, so I can't comment on it, but there's always, it's too early and there's always two sides to the story. Some people love it. Some people are like, oh yeah, Manus just tells me whatever Meta's sales rep tells me. So because it's been trained on the same talk track and the same data, right? So take it with a grain of salt.
Well, I mean, one thing that I think about with them, and actually with a lot of, I would say, like, not legacy platforms, but very complicated marketing and advertising solutions, is one way to solve the problem is you release a bunch of APIs that allow you to do everything you could have done in the UI, but via an API. But the problem is, like, sometimes you do need a UI to understand what's happening. And if you're working with humans, it kind of reminds me of like the car dilemma, where it's like, it would be nice if all the cars were self-driving, but since we're going to have humans on the road for a while, we have this weird hybrid system where cars are driving themselves and humans are driving, which is actually the harder problem to solve. And so I think what Manus is doing, my understanding so far is like, I don't know how good the model is, but it works within a lot of Meta's and Facebook's app ecosystem to perform the tasks that human would perform, but a human can still in an audit and do those tasks. So it's this, again, it reminds me of the car analogy, and it's this weird middle ground where you're not, for example, using an MCP to connect to the ad account and just have API triggers fire everything. I think Manus actually has the ability to navigate the UI and like perform tasks within actual applications that Facebook has and others have. And it's just a fascinating thing because I think for a really long time, there are going to be a number of applications that don't have APIs, which then mean they can't support MCP. And so your fallback is literally this. It's like, make a bot that knows how to log in and use Playwright to do it. We were talking about this before the show and how I've been using Claude Code to automate tasks. One of the most common one is there's a really old website. I have Playwright, and then I have a fallback, and I have Clawbot browse, and I have the ability for a bot to go and navigate a website and log in securely with a 1Password service worker. But it's like there are these applications that just don't have APIs, and you want to do stuff with them in an automated way. So I built kind of my own version of a UI path, and that is, I think, what
I had
happening.
a much dumber version of something that I did yesterday that I thought was interesting. So
Yeah.
I can look up anybody. So I can go to your LinkedIn account and go to our common connections. And I would typically do this with a third party or a second party, a second degree connection, right? And it'll show me like 20 different pages of common connections with somebody. And I ask Claude's Chrome browser to basically paginate through every one of those pages and identify any common connections that have CEO or founder or CMO in the title. And super simple, it just gives me a list of like, hey, these are the 5 people who could potentially connect you to that person, right? It's like very simple, and it would take 20 pages of going back and forth. And now I can just do that through a Claude Chrome browser. But it's the same thing, right? It's like UiPath, like it's not available through an API, and people are going to start doing stuff like this. So it makes a lot of sense. Okay, a couple of other things from Meta before we move on. So one is they launched a new attribution model. We talked about this separately when we were catching up about attribution on Friday. And what they've done is they've introduced this new thing called engaged through attribution. So now you can do click-through attribution, view-through attribution, and engaged through attribution. And essentially, the click attribution is now going to map perfectly to actual clicks that go from Meta to your property, rather than a click on a post that doesn't actually result in a visit. So clicks are clicks, which is basically like getting you actual traffic. Engaged through is all the other types of engagement that are not views, and then views are views. And the reason
Can you
behind,
give us an example of something that's like an engagement that's not a view?
like I like it, or
Oh, a
I
like,
save
got it.
it, right? Bookmark, liking it, commenting on it, or just like, when you have like see more, I see more and I click, but it is a click, but like it's not really a visit to your site. So all of those things which are like you're interacting with the post, but not actually going to the destination that the post is trying to get you to.
Shouldn't an impression always happen before either of those two things ever occur? Or are there cases where that's not possible?
No, that's right. So it's basically like a view through would be all views. Then there's
Yeah.
engagement, which is like one level below, and then there's click, which is all the way
Click,
to the
got it.
bottom. Up until now, click and engagement were being conflated in Meta's reporting. And so people
course
would
they
look
were.
at Google people would look at Google Analytics and go like, I didn't get 100 click-throughs. I only got 10. Why does Meta say I got 100 click-throughs? And what Meta was doing is like taking those see more or the like as a click rather than as an engage, and that's like the big difference from their perspective. So we'll see what that does to people's reporting. It's going to make people freak out. Oh my God, my clicks have gone down, but it's all just redefinition.
I'm so excited for what we talked about Friday. I know we can't talk too much about it, but to all of our listeners, we had like this epic 1 hour deep dive into attribution, advanced tools, complex tools, and this was a big part of it. I'm stoked.
Yeah, it's going to be fun when you publish it. All right. Okay. So another piece of news from Meta, I'm actually pretty excited about this one. They have a creator marketplace. Have you heard of this? Like Meta has a creator marketplace. So you can go into Meta Ads Manager and look at all the potential creators on Meta who are listed in their marketplace. And they've launched a new AI performance predictor for their creators. So what they're saying is if you engage with this particular creator, here's the potential campaign ROI, and they're doing it based off of the audience of that creator and your product. And makes a lot of sense. I like it. It's like instead of like, shooting in the dark or like, how is a creator supposed to know what their audience is? Only Meta really knows. And now there's a nice little, prediction before you engage with the creator. I thought that was pretty cool.
It's very cool. I love it.
All right, more stuff that's happening. I'm just going to keep going. So, and then we'll come back to OpenAI because
I'm behaving myself today, Pranav. I'm trying not to keep us off track. I'm trying to.
No, this is good. This is good.
Keep us on track. Limited commentary for me today.
It's all good. It's all good. Okay, so Google also launched a bunch of new stuff. So their new Nano Banana stuff has launched. I don't know if you have played around with it, but it is darn good. They launched it with this new feature called a window seat. So what you can do now is say I want a view of the Golden Gate Bridge in SF. And I can say Golden Gate Bridge, and then I can give it a perspective from Bay Bridge. I don't actually know if you can see the Golden Gate Bridge from the Bay Bridge. I'm thinking. And so what it will do is it'll create the perspective from the Bay Bridge looking at Golden Gate Bridge. And so you can do this for like all types of images where you're not just giving it the object, but like the framing of it. And it does like some pretty cool things. And then they launched...
Yeah.
And they launched something similar for their SMB product called Pumeli. I don't know if you've seen Pumeli. That's doing something similar, but like allowing you to create a photo shoot for your product. So you give it a product and you give it some prompts for creating a photo shoot. And essentially it allows you to create a professional grade, photo shoot using Gemini with that product in different settings and what have you. And for the first time at a dinner 2 weeks ago, somebody said that they've moved all of their static to Pumeli. This is like a multi-$100 million brand. And I was like, really? Like Google
That's
Pumeli?
Wild.
And I'm like, yeah, they're just using Pumeli all day long. So Nano Banana is epic. And I had this experience, Austin. I was creating an image. I used Nano Banana in Gemini, and then I went to Figma and I tried to create the same image in Figma with Nano Banana. It didn't work in Figma. but it worked straight, like single shot
Si-
in
In
Gemini.
Nano.
Yeah, it's kind
Mm,
of wild. And so I don't know what's
I think
happening in Figma, but there's something concerning here about, their business and maybe even Adobe's business.
Well, I think I mean, I can only speak from the perspective of how I'm using these tools. I think when I'm trying to come up with interesting images and iconography and creative style artwork, I actually find that starting with a human is actually the best spot. So like my workflow is if I'm trying to design something, I will hire a very, very inexpensive offshore creative to come up with 20 ideas for something. And most of the time they're like really interesting in it because I'm not always the most creative person in the world. But say you design like a new logo or a new brand for something. Put all your thoughts on paper, have somebody come up with 20 ideas. Then you can take that and I think like with Nano, you can get some really incredible outputs because
Mm,
I think Nano is really great at taking information and even existing sketch work and making things that are beautiful. I think it can one shot a lot of stuff, especially if it's simple. But if you're looking for complex artwork and outcomes, and then actually where I feel like Figma is thriving right now is in using all of its tools with MCP to take like the interactive brainstorming and kind of troubleshooting work of creative design and making it single shot. Like two
mm,
examples that come to mind is one, I need to like build a screen for this app I'm building. So I took a bunch of screenshots of similar apps that I care about and I had agents go and catalog their CSS for me. And then I basically was like, design me a couple screens for this app in Figma that I can walk and talk through with the team. And it was able to one shot that really quickly. And actually now the Figma MCP supports layers. So like we'll create, I don't know, HTML and CSS style outcomes with layers. And so that's one use case. The other use case is I always use Figma for brainstorming. I've predominantly used FigJam, but I'm actually switching over to Figma now because of the Figma MCP. And the
mm.
example I'd like to share is when I previously run OKR sessions with teams, I will sit down, I'll have a brainstorming session. We'll do crazy eights or something. It'll be 10 of us. We'll put our ideas on a board. Then I have to manually collate everything. I'll go walk through that board with every individual and gather feedback and then incorporate it into the OKRs. Like OKR is a really expensive, time-consuming process, but it's important for teams to get aligned. And that could live in Figma or a Google Doc. But this year, I actually just did it exclusively with Clarify and Figma. So Clarify is my call recorder. I went and interviewed 6 or 7 people on the team, asked them questions about our company OKRs. Then I had a brainstorming session afterwards where all I did was like take the themes from the calls and put them on a board. We all talked, we all put our feedback down. But then I used the Figma MCP to like pull that into themes and groups. I spent, an hour working through those groups one by one with Claude Code, distilling information. I also, when there was something missing, I could be like, hey, could you go to that call with Pranav? He said something important about this OKR. I'm willing to bring it in. So it was a little time consuming sitting there with an agent, kind of working through it. But the outcome was now we have these OKRs that are literally the words of the humans I'm working with. So it's
Right.
not, there can't be any speculation that it was, made up or that it was hallucinated because it literally was just consolidating 6
Yeah.
conversations worth of text and a giant board into things that made sense. And it was audited by me as a human. And like that to me, I actually believe is like one of the most powerful aspects of AI now is not necessarily as a creative tool, but as a consolidation and synthesis tool. And it's actually very, very good at synthesizing lots of text, especially if you have it in the form of transcripts. So I don't know. I'm not necessarily bullish on Figma from the perspective of like, oh, continuing to build great, editing software, but it's already built an amazing tool. And now that it has MCP, you can just use it as this, as another surface area to do work. The question will be though, is like, what other tools come up with these types of surface areas and do you need them anymore? Like where I'm struggling is like, do I need Excalidraw and
Right.
Figma? Do I
Right.
need Figma and Gamma? Gamma's way better at deck creation. So if they create basic, tooling to make charts and stuff, then maybe I just switch entirely to Gamma. So Gamma also has MCP.
Honestly, like I'm surprised that Figma hasn't bought Framer and hasn't at least tried to buy Gamma or some other like slide make, right? They need to go on like a massive acquisition spree for the next like 12 to 14 months, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's dangerous territory. And unfortunately, like for Figma, I don't think they're in a moat quite like HubSpot and Salesforce example. Whereas like, HubSpot would have to acquire 20 different CRMs to consolidate the CRM market. and they're losing the customers they don't really even care about, the people whose only willingness to pay is $20 a month. So like, I don't really think they care. But Figma, they do care.
Yeah.
Those are their
Yeah. Yeah.
prime customers.
Yeah. On that note, you brought up HubSpot, so let's jump to that because there was some news about HubSpot buying this company called Starter Story. It's like a
Mm.
media company. Starter Story to fuel media-led growth. It's kind of similar to their buy of The Hustle, right? They bought The Hustle, I think. And so this is basically 5,000 case studies. That's basically what Starter Story is. And so they've acquired The Hustle, they're acquiring Starter Story, and the whole idea is basically content and generating first-party data and using that to like own the audience, not just like the software. So it's interesting. Like you can imagine this, Austin. Like if GTMN becomes big, would somebody want to acquire this, right? Exit 5 is another one, right? Like it's become like Dave's sort of community. Like I can imagine a bunch of these smaller communities just become, the way that these larger SaaS companies just find distribution. So
They're already
that was
doing
an
that. I
interesting
mean,
one.
Kieran Flanagan, the CMO, talked about this. Like,
Yep.
I think he talked on LinkedIn how HubSpot's main creative channel, content channel, was blogs, was down some crazy percent. He released this information a couple months ago, but YouTube was up and their creative channels were up. And yeah, we're seeing this even with smaller brands. They're like, oh, my blog is worthless. I'm going to go start writing on Substack instead. I mean, we thought about this even when I was at Clarify, which is like, do we have a Substack for myself and Patrick, which turned into Founder Therapy with Patrick, versus a blog where nobody gives kind of shit
Yeah.
about a blog anymore. But I think
Yeah.
the real strategy, if for small B2B companies, actually is like you still have a blog and you're still doing work with AEO, but like that's just not that's actually get the search traffic.
Yeah.
And then the way that you actually grow the hearts and minds of people and like get them excited about you is through some other collection of surface areas that are not your corporate website.
Yeah, totally. You brought up YouTube. Like I'm very bullish on YouTube. I think it has a huge future. It's basically now de facto like the same as TV and the future of TV. And they launched something interesting this week, which is a non-skippable ad on YouTube CTV. And so you know how when you watch YouTube, and I'm a premium subscriber, so I don't get ads, but if you do get ads, they are skippable ads. There's usually like 6 seconds or what have you. And now you can force YouTube to have non-skip ads, 6 seconds, 15 seconds, 30 seconds. You upload whatever length you want, and it will dynamically figure out which length to place depending on the inventory that they have and the customer engagement. So non-skippable ads on YouTube, CTV. And the reason they're doing it is very obvious. They're basically trying to compete directly with TV and saying that, hey, now you have guaranteed brand storytelling. You don't have to worry about skippability. So pretty big move. And I think this is going to, I don't know if it'll help drive more outcomes, but it's definitely going to drive lots of ad dollars for YouTube.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a premium subscriber on YouTube, but I click through the ads a lot and I click skip. So this might make me a premium subscriber.
Exactly. Okay. I have this fun question for you. So how much YouTube or like short form video do you watch?
I have definitely. So one, I'll say I am not good with social
This
media.
is not a judgment. This is not
I
a
know.
judgment.
No, I'll be honest. I think like I've gone through phases where I'm way too much on social media and phases where I'm not as much. During the peak phases where I was on, I found that actually I would probably prefer to just watch a couple of short videos on YouTube before bed rather than LinkedIn or Reddit. And I think like that is actually my default these days, is like to just go watch a couple of videos on YouTube from the 5 or 6 creators that I care about and then read and go to bed.
So the reason I asked you this question is apparently there's some new data that micro dramas, okay? So these are short form, vertical, scripted content is generating higher daily viewing time than Netflix or Disney Plus on mobile.
What?
On mobile.
What?
So
What?
and yeah. Okay. So This is interesting. I follow an account. I can't tell you what account this is on YouTube. Okay, this is like a girl and a boy in a Brooklyn coffee shop, hipster coffee shop. The whole series is them just making fun of hipster stuff in Brooklyn. There's a new
Uh-huh.
guest on the show. It's literally like 30-second shows and is hilarious, right? It's like people, like famous people making cameos in these 30
What's it
second.
called?
That's the thing. I can't even tell you what it's called because like that's just that I just know that they have funny comedy, Brooklyn hipster coffee something on YouTube. If you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. And
I'm Googling it now. Brooklyn
yeah,
Coffee Shop, episode 31, competitive hipster. Is that it?
let's see. Let's see what that. I don't know. I'll try to find it later
Oh
after the
yeah,
show. But
this has got to be it. It's like 30 seconds. Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. We should roll one of these if you're allowed to.
let's do it. Let's put it on the screen or send me a link and I'll put it up. But like the
Yeah,
whole
yeah. Here,
idea.
let me show it to you.
Okay, so here it is. Winnie the Pooge. That's the name of the account. It's pretty good. It's pretty good. And let's play this.
You're seriously not going to do a land
I
acknowledgement?
do them in my dreams at night to save time.
Every time we forget, they win.
Who's they?
Mood.
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to acknowledge that we are on stolen land that belonged to the protons and neutrons that existed 13 billion years ago after the Big Bang. And if it weren't for the violent conquest of those original subatomic particles, we would not be here right now. You can keep that.
We usually don't start our land acknowledgements before the year 2000 BC.
Interesting that you center your timeline around Christianity. So what kind of milks do you have?
Today we have macadamia, Brazil nut, banana, and elk.
No breast milk? That's the only milk that an organism can consent to providing. Okay.
And it is delicious, but unfortunately, millennials, they're not having babies.
If you knew your neighbor, you'd do that fine.
We don't put that updated.
I like your top. I bet you are one.
Thanks. It's from a secondhand store in Prague.
I only shop at fourth hand, twice removed stores. If it hasn't been on the back of at least 3 generations of orphans, I'm not wearing it.
We don't have fourth hand in Brooklyn.
Ugh, I hate performative baristas.
Mood redacted. What do you want?
I'm still deciding if I want to barter with her.
What is your problem?
I just think us bi brown baddies need to hold each other to a higher standard.
Did you just assume my sexuality?
Oh my god. Oh my science. So you're pan.
No.
Demi.
No.
Asexual?
No.
Closeted. No. Just point where you are on the Kinsey scale.
I'm straight and cis.
About this.
I'm also straight and
So what can I get you?
I'll have an iced matcha with cow's milk.
This is a queer only cafe, so I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
but I want some Dunkin'.
Yeah, I bet you do, Tubby.
I think I want to go to Town Square.
You guys want to come with us?
I hate normies.
Okay, now you can imagine.
This
okay,
is wild. This is
Yes.
wild.
This is what I watch. No, I'm just kidding. But I do actually get this on my feed. I don't know how I got on it. And it's just like new scripts every couple of days. It is hella entertaining. And yeah, apparently micro dramas are more watched than Netflix or Disney Plus on mobile.
I can totally get that. And I don't know, if there's 31 of them and they're like 30 to 45 maybe a minute each, you can watch like 10 and you only
Yeah.
spend 10 minutes.
Yep. Pretty addictive. But
Oh my god. Yeah, this is not good for humanity, man. Between this and my little bot Gary in my basement, I'm really wondering where my life is going right now.
Okay, so we started with doom and gloom. Maybe we are ending with doom and gloom too. All right, last couple of pieces before we wrap this up. So Trade Desk, their stock plunged 14 or 18% earlier this year in like end of Feb.
Another
so-
one.
Yep. And basically because they gave like weak outlook for 2026. But then here's the interesting part. OpenAI explores ad sales with the Trade Desk and the stock surges 21% a week later. So OpenAI is now partnering with the Trade Desk and with Criteo. I don't know if you know what Criteo is.
Oh yeah, definitely know what Criteo is.
To essentially become a third-party ad tech partner to integrate with the pilot for ChatGPT Free and ChatGPT Go. And the idea would be that you can use Criteo's media platform or Trade Desk's media platform to buy ads within ChatGPT, right? So they're essentially making their inventory available on those two platforms. And the reason that they're doing this is obviously because they need more distribution, and instead of building, their own first-party like ads manager, they want to piggyback piggyback on what's already out there. I just find it's a little bit weird to go through Criteo and the trade desk for OpenAI. Why not just build an ads manager and let people do it directly? So I'm confounded by this approach, but I'm curious if you have thoughts on this.
I think it's a distribution play. I think they're going to build their own, and that might take a lot of time to perfect. And they can start making money today by building an integration. And if you think about it, Pranav, like all these services are dogfooding their own platforms. And if you've used Claude Code at all, you'll know that, hey, integrating an API with structured documentation is pretty easy and pretty fast. Building a brand new advertising platform is a lot harder. So that's my assumption in all this, is that it's a distribution play. It's to test the waters. It's to understand the complexities of the platforms so that they can actually learn from what it's like for people to use these tools and solutions and integrate that understanding and knowledge back into the one that they designed for themselves. And also just like, it's going to take a while to build, is my guess.
Yeah.
I mean, I just think about like it's taken Anthropic and OpenAI a long time to even build basic expectations into their own platforms for like managing their tool. Like, do you remember for the first 2 years, there was this like there was no such thing as projects, like you couldn't delete or archive things, the settings were screwed up. Like you also have to remember, like they are also SaaS platforms. And they have a lot of stuff to
No,
build on
Austin,
top.
they're just AI companies. There's no SaaS there.
I mean, I'm paying Anthropic $200 a month, man. They have a UI that I go into to check billing. Like there's stuff they got to build.
All right. So I think you're right. They just need to bootstrap the ecosystem, and it's going to take a little while for them to build the ad manager. But then the other piece of news that came out of OpenAI is they are scaling back their plans to introduce shopping directly into ChatGPT. You remember there was this big sort of announcement. I forget if it's the agentic commerce platform or the unified commerce platform, but like the whole idea was that you could see the products from Shopify inside of ChatGPT and like single click purchase. And they are now no longer thinking about that as a focus and kind of switching more into the advertising realm. And what they're saying is like, hey, while users were researching products to buy in ChatGPT, they weren't really using it to make the actual purchase. And so it makes sense. It's basically the same thing as, Google Shopping ads. Google Shopping ads are like a small portion of the overall sort of advertising that happens on Google. And I'm not surprised that this scaling back is happening on the OpenAI side.
Mm-hmm.
All right, last couple of pieces of news. The big one from Elon Musk. All right, so X is doing a beta of X Money and X Chat. Have you heard about this? Yeah.
I mean, he's wanted to build a super app for a long time, so now it's finally happening.
It's finally happening. So they've begun beta testing X Money and X Chat. And if you know anything about Elon Musk, he used to own a company called X.com, which merged with PayPal, and the combined entity was PayPal. That's how Elon and Peter Thiel kind of came together. And so he has a background in fintech, and X Money is basically that. It's peer-to-peer payments, and it's partnered with Visa to issue like debit cards to early beta testers. And then X Chat, I don't know much about X Chat, but I have to imagine it's kind of like messaging. And the whole idea is you have peer-to-peer payments, you have actual chat. And so now you're like, Facebook Messenger, Venmo, like that whole Cash App, right? Everything is kind of working together. And if you can do that and you have advertising on X, you're trying to close the loop. So there's some advertising, you load up your X Money, you pay for products directly from X, that whole thing. So there's like a concept of social commerce, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I don't know what's going to happen, but interesting new player in the ecosystem when you think about it from a social perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I think, again, the super apps in China that are amazing keep people in them because you can put money on them, you can buy services, you can order a cab, you can see what your friends are talking about and purchase right away. So I think like it makes a lot of sense understanding what his motives are. It's just not the way that I operate. Like the closest analogy I would say is like I bought stuff from Instagram where, you get one of those sexy ads and you're like, oh my God, I want to buy one of these. And then it pops up an in-app web view and you buy, but like there's so many buying options. There's pay for it now, there's Venmo, there's Apple Pay, there's the Shopify thing. And frankly, I think the Shopify instant checkout is the best of all of them, because if you're on an iPhone device, you click shop, it sends you a text message that automatically fills in. It has all your information, it has your credit cards, and you just click buy. It takes like 2 seconds. So I think like, I don't know, how many more ways do we need to know how to pay for things? There's PayPal, there's Venmo, there's Cash App, now there's X. Like there's so many ways to buy things. And I find that like as I guess an aging millennial, I'm like, I don't want 10 ways to do things. I just want like 2, you know?
Yeah. I think it's going to be like Apple Pay and Google Pay, maybe Shop Pay. Like that's it. That's what's left after
Shop
a few
Pay
years.
for all the websites, because I mean, Shop Pay, they have such an advantage because they're integrated into so many, you know, website commerce systems that it's like, it's the easiest thing in the world to check out. And that's why, you know, there was that sort of Bolt that tried to do this and they failed because they didn't have distribution. So
Yeah.
I think that will also be a challenge. The thing that will probably make the most sense though is if you're looking at products or services or recommendations in X, it makes a lot of sense to have a payments platform and, you know, and attribution all connected. So you can serve the ad, collect the money, attribute the click all in one place. And that makes a lot of sense to me. But, you know, I don't like the problem with X right now is like they're losing the social component. Like there are people leaving it because it's just like it's becoming a right-wing maelstrom, you know?
Yeah. All right. Well, that brings us to a close. What are you excited about for next week, Austin? Are you taking some time off next week? Did I hear that correctly?
I am going to California next week. I'm going to be at Disneyland when we normally record, which is why we're not recording next week. Sad tears. But I'm so excited. I mean, you've heard me complain about the weather on the East Coast for all of 8 weeks now. So I'm excited to be in California, get a couple days with 80 degrees, and then we'll be back the week after that.
Awesome. All right. I'm going to be in Arizona 2 weeks from now for a conference with a bunch of CMOs being hosted by Exit 5. We're sponsoring it. So it's going to be fun. I've never been to Phoenix, Arizona. So travel is on the cards. Yeah, I'm excited for it. I can use some heat. All right.
The good news is we'll be back at the end of March and no travel for 2 months at least for me. So I'll be ready to lock in for the spring.
Let's go. All right, Austin. Have a good week.
See ya. Bye, Pranav.